Only when I have ceased to breathe will I be dead.
I have led the entire human race to ruin.
Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb.
Get to the chopper!
You have been a good boy. Have a lollipop.
That was the speech. It was dumb. It was obvious. It was pointless. It was short. I loved it.
Hi, welcome to Film Logic. This is Mike. We are a movie podcast about the films of yesterday, today, and tomorrow, and all the fandoms in between. Adam, it's a brand new day.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I'm excited for for the second season. Part 2.
Yeah, we did a whole year of this
right?
stuff. And it's been a wild ride.
Really has. And it's a good day. It's a good day to be recording, I think. And the writer's strike, kind of done. The actor strike is still ongoing, but I'm sure a resolution will be coming soon. But it's starting to leak out the fallout. So I'm excited to see kind of these new movies and shows that are going to get made, or maybe some new shows that'll get canceled. I don't know. There's a lot to talk about in the coming months.
Yeah. Definitely on this episode, we have a lot to talk about. If you don't know, or you keep forgetting, this is a Retro Logic podcast, and we're not just podcasts. We are a Discord channel with lots of cool conversations. People share their old PlayStation and 64 games, and they go fanboy on all the Switch games that are coming out. So I love if you like those kind of conversations, and you like talking about vinyls that you buy for your record player, come on over to the Discord. All right, advertisement done. So, season 2. Adam, do you want to just jump right into the movie talk?
Yeah, I mean, that's the only reason I'm here, Mike.
Yeah, but sometimes we have to waste the listeners' time, but not in the new season. Nope.
No, absolutely not.
Coming out of the gate hot.
Yeah, I mean,
right.
I'm excited about this episode. I think there's some good content to talk about.
Well, legend has it that I saw movies that I want to talk about. So let's talk about movies. You saw something that you want to gab about.
Sure do. Show enough. I mean, and maybe this will be, maybe we can revisit this more in depth later. I mean, I would love to do a comparison between, some of the big, huge sci-fi titles that came out this year. But this past week, The Creator came out, which was very, very good. I enjoyed it a lot. It was directed by Gareth Edwards, who did, of course, Rogue One. It was very good. I mean, it was very solid sci-fi. It was it's everything that you want from kind of a low, for lack of a better word, like a low fantasy sci-fi movie, right? Like it's not like Blade Runner or Star Wars where the tech is kind of too far into the future. This movie felt like the technology could drop tomorrow. So the premise of the movie is that mankind created these robots, and then in order to make them more lifelike, more human-like, they created this AI, and it essentially created this new kind of life form. And sadly, there was an accident that happened. A nuke went off, and it decimated a portion of the LA. And after that event, the U.S. government and North America kind of banned AI, and they kind of went about destroying these synthesized humans. And however, this like republic of Asian nations disagreed, and they continued to improve and work with these AI, saying that AI wasn't the problem, these robots weren't a problem. So of course, what does America do other than what it does best, and declare war on these nations? And part of their process is to destroy this kind of AI thought leader, this scientist, this computer scientist. And that's kind of where the movie really kind of kicks in with John David Washington. He plays this this U.S. Spec Ops agent, and he's sent kind of undercover to find this quote unquote creator. And his life kind of goes sideways, and the movie kind of follows along his journey in finding this creator. And so like I don't want to get too stuck in the mud. This isn't really what this episode's totally about, but other than just a quick review, it's good. It's very good. I mean, I wouldn't put it on the level of if you're trying to expect Blade Runner, or if you're expecting 2001: A Space Odyssey. This isn't really quite that. This definitely feels a step down in quality in terms of like the story and the storytelling, but the visual effects and the action sequences are all brilliant. And this movie had a budget of 80 million, and the CGI in it looks a lot better than The Flash. So the CGI and the acting, the cast is brilliant. It's really great. It stars Gemma Chan and Ken Watanabe, as well as John David Washington, who I mentioned earlier. And it also features a delightful. I'm forgetting her name, but there's a child actor that plays a character named Alfie. Her name is Madeline Yuna. And usually, kid actors, they're missed more than they hit, but she does an excellent job. And so that's my quick review. If I were to think, I feel like the movie could have benefited from it. Definitely felt like it dragged a little bit in the middle, and it felt like it could have used maybe another 20 minutes. The movie is a little over 2 hours, so not too long. Oh, and did I mention the music is Hans Zimmer? So the music in it is fantastic too. But yeah, it just felt like
he was only allowed to do Batman stuff.
Yeah, right. It just kind of felt like I could have used a little bit extra. So like the first half hour was really strong, and the last 45 minutes was really great, but the middle just kind of dragged a little bit. And I can't help but feel that they left a little bit on the cutting room floor. I'd be interested in seeing like a director's cut or something. I can't help but think it wasn't fully Gareth's vision, and it definitely, and like I don't think of this in every movie, but I think this movie would have benefited maybe a little bit from an R rating. I think it tried to it did kind of like the Marvel thing where there was like violence, but it kind of was like it would turn the camera away from like the really serious violence.
I thought you meant like Sleepy Bullets.
No. But but it would be like the really bad stuff would just happen to the robots, kind of like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They're like, oh, they just beat the stuffing out of this dude, and it's not actually a person, so you don't have to worry about it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, no, this is so if you were going into it expecting more of like a Blade Runner or like a Minority Report sort of neo-noir sci-fi film, I would definitely say that this isn't 100%, maybe what you're looking for. But if you're looking for just really solid sci-fi action adventure movie, this is right up your alley.
Yeah. I mean, all I have is the poster, And the poster gives me vibes of District
Yeah.
9 or Tom Cruise's Oblivion. Just, but you would probably say those movies are nothing like that.
No, I mean I mean aesthetically, yeah, I would say yeah, it's definitely along those lines. And the reviews are in and they're kind of mixed. I mean, I definitely I don't think it's Dune, but it's got like a 68 on the critic scale and a 77 on the audience score, and I think it's somewhere in between there. I think it's it's around 7.4, 7.5. So definitely worth a watch. I really enjoyed it in IMAX, but I just enjoyed that genre of movie. If you can wait, I definitely think this movie will translate pretty well to a TV screen when it comes to streaming.
Yeah, it's about saving like a child that's a robot and getting them to a secure location. Right? Would you say that's the genre?
Yeah, it's a little bit more. Yeah, there's some twists and turns in there, so it's not totally like that, but yeah, it's definitely along the lines of male dad figure escorting a young child through multiple sides, and like you start you start the movie and you're like, oh, the United States might have a point, and then you're like, oh wait, no, this other faction has a point, and you're like, oh wait, maybe not, maybe this faction is right. So there's there's a lot of twists and turns.
Yeah. I'm thinking of the movie. This is kind of like a sci-fi trope of you live in the future, and there's this child with magnificent ... DNA, robotics, AI, and one person has to save it from an evil government or evil faction. I'm thinking of the movie Ultraviolet.
Yeah, that's a good comparison.
Which I'm probably guessing this is far, far better than Ultraviolet. Sorry, Milovich.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like quality, yeah, no, for sure, it definitely
Mhm.
blows it away. It's it kind of falls to me, um, it's not like Blade Runner where it's like so heavy under the weight of its own just like artsy pretentiousness, but it's like not quite fun and campy enough to be Star Wars. So it's kind of like this in between sort of space.
Yeah, it reminds me of like, oh my gosh, Avatar was beautiful. Let's forget about its plot and just herald it as a beautiful movie. And this seems like it can do both, be beautiful, which I think it might win awards for its beauty, and the story isn't half bad, I hear. And it seems to be the case with you.
Yeah, and I can definitely see this the show becoming like a TV show. I think they left enough threads and the world is really unique. It almost kind of feels like Outer Worlds, or kind of like not quite Fallout, but that sort of genre of like kind of this weird like it's definitely futuristic, of course, because it takes place in the future and there's robots and stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
aesthetically, and it even kind of definitely makes references to the Vietnam War, and it kind of feels like 1970s aesthetic, if that makes sense. Like they're running around the southern Asian jungle in these like almost flak jackets, and even the transport planes kind of have a Chinook helicopter sound to them as they fly, and even the music choices definitely kind of scream this aesthetic, and then it kind of does this weird switch pan jump to like the 1980s Japan vision of 2020, where they have space stations and there's easy transport to the moon and Earth because there's like colonies and stuff like that. So yeah, it's definitely interesting.
Well, you'll be happy to know that I saw a sci-fi movie.
Ooh.
And this grabbed my eye. I was at the library, which I call my my second Netflix. And so they have a lot of great movies at this library. Very good at keeping things up. I saw this film called Jiu-Jitsu, which stars Nicolas Cage and Tony Jaa. And I don't know if you're into the kung fu scene, but Juju Chan seems to be a big name. And so I'm thinking, just based off of the cover, this is going to be like a karate tournament. No, not exactly. It's about a Halo-looking alien monster that came many, many years ago, taught everyone jujitsu, as aliens are wont to do. And then every year it comes and it chooses 6 jujitsu masters to fight. And if they lose, it kills lots of people. Now, this robot is totally OP. He's got a self-healing mechanism. And I'm pretty sure he has lasers and searing heat lava. So if that's jujitsu, I'm in. Like, I'm signing up tomorrow to the gym. It was a karate movie, and they built it kind of like Nicolas Cage was in the first 3 days of filming. And it was a $25 million budget movie, and he got $5 million of that budget. I'm learning all this. He was also drunk, and he drew a picture of the alien bad guy, and the director said, this looks scary. This is going to be our art.
What?
So already this movie is at an awesome start, but it was pretty decent for being like a straight to DVD. Hey, look, we got Nicolas Cage. Originally, according to the notes of the movie, they were trying to get Bruce Willis, who's another guy who never turns down a role. Anyone who can whistle $5 million can get him or Nicolas Cage. And Nicolas Cage kind of plays he's like the Raiden of the Mortal Kombat game. Like, he's the smart, ancient one who knows all about the history of the alien, and he kind of takes the main protagonist under his wing. And he's like, oh man, you got to learn how to be brave in your jujitsu when you fight this Halo-looking monster. And then they had to have added this line for
Nick Cage.
They're like, oh, the alien won't fight me because I'm crazy. And it gets no honor in fighting a crazy man.
That's fair.
So they're like, you have to say that. But then later, Nicolas Cage does fight him. So
I mean, I think there's no way Nick Cage would be in that movie and he didn't at least get some licks in.
Yeah, so they have a pretty cool like samurai sword fight, which I didn't know was a part of jiu-jitsu. So the amazing thing, in America, this movie's just called Jiu-Jitsu. In other countries, it's called Earthfall. Which tells you a lot more about the movie than the word Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah, that's
like, I know that
weird.
Yeah, the movie's a love letter to Jiu-Jitsu, kind of. But I don't know.
It sounds like one of those movies that is trying a little bit too hard to be crazy, but like it's also kind of trying to take itself too seriously, you know what I mean? It's not like Bloodsport where it knows that it's ridiculous, but it like fully commits to being ridiculous. Or like Street Fighter where it knows that it's wacko, but it's like it's just gonna lean into it. This movie feels like it's trying to take itself like too seriously.
And the movie like takes breaks for comedy. In My Name Is Earl, the husband that runs the Crab Shack, he's got that amazing fro. He plays this soldier that plays he plays a Chinese interpreter.
Okay.
And he's just dropping these one-liners, and I'm like, I am here for this.
Also, is jujitsu Chinese? I thought it was like Japanese. I don't know.
They're in China for reasons I don't wish to discuss. And you can't even say it's Chinese or Japanese. It's alien,
right.
Adam.
You're right. My bad. You're right.
So, it's good to know they also got Tony Jaa. If you've seen any of his, they're amazing. And I think they tried to do the things that he's really good at, flipping around, crushing, like he goes through like wooden barriers to knee someone in the face. Like his style is, Muay Thai.
Right. Not jujitsu.
Not jujitsu, but still, he looked cool. I didn't question it. So
I think he's in the new Expendable movies. I just looked it up. Yeah, he's in the new Expendables movie. I mean, to be fair, you and I are in the new Expendables movie.
Yeah, we're the last heroes.
I'm not. I mean, par for the course. New season, same us. But I'm looking not to go on a bunny trail. But the cast for this is crazy. Like 50 Cent is in it, and like the usuals are in here, right? Like Sylvester Stallone, Jason Statham, Dolph Lundgren, but then it's just like random people, like
Megan Fox.
Right, exactly, and 50 Cent and Andy Garcia.
Yeah, so I'm wondering. They need a female that's represents action movies.
Right. And
they got Megan Fox, who she did like a movie where she was like a cute sniper. Like, I think she wanted to do like I'm a serious action star. So it's just so weird that it's a movie about action stars, and they had the whole WWE roster they could have hired, including the women, and they chose Megan Fox and 50 Cent.
Right? I don't know. Whatever. Yeah. It's fine. But two very different sci-fi movies.
Yeah. I mean, technically, mine's the prequel to yours.
Right. Although there's no jujitsu in mine, I think. So I don't know. That's funny. But yeah, I would love to do maybe at some point, and maybe we can include jujitsu. But I'd love to do maybe a comparison between, Dune and Dune 2 and this movie, and maybe Rebel Moon when that comes out too. So it's definitely a good year for science fiction.
Right. And I do want to toot my horn that I know something cultural. Ooh, yeah. But apparently in China, someone wrote this amazingly complex time travel novel called The Three-Body Problem.
Yeah, that book is so good.
It really got to a series. A series that's probably going to confuse me.
Oh, for sure. Is it going to be on like Amazon, or feels like an Amazon thing?
I think it's
Netflix. Okay, I hope that's good. I mean, that's really good. That book comes pretty highly recommended to me. So.
Yeah, I'm afraid of that book, as I am afraid of Tenet, the movie, because everyone kind of built it up as like, take notes, get the notes while you watch it. You're not going to understand this.
Well, I think what's really cool about the Three-Body Problem is that it takes, like, a lot of other science fiction and like Western stories take inspiration from the Western canon, but this one's definitely supposed to be more leaning into like a Chinese Eastern sort of aesthetic, and yeah, so that'll be cool to see how that translate. Maybe a little like a little like Stargate or something. I don't know.
it's either going to be amazing or it's going to be so confusing. Everyone's going to pretend like they know it.
Right. I mean, and that's what
do you
sci-fi
remember-
movies are, right? It's
I mean, like, yeah, Memento. Everyone was so confused about
Right.
Memento.
right.
Even I was like, this was before Google was like easy to access. So I was like I guess I'm never going to understand this movie, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's why some people have such a hard time accessing science fiction movies because they have like it feels like two different speeds, right? It's either Speed Racer
Yeah.
or it's Akira. There's nothing, there's no in between.
Mm. Yeah. And then you have like, remember in 1999, The Matrix? Everyone's like, oh, you're not going to understand it. Oh, it's so
It's so deep,
complex.
yeah.
Dude, it's just like the world is not real. The
Right.
Matrix.
Hot take: The Matrix is more like Speed Racer than it is like Akira.
Right. Absolutely.
Oh man, I mean, don't get me wrong. I like The Matrix is definitely like it has to be on the Mount Rushmore of science fiction movies, but
Of
it's
course.
definitely one of those movies where people pretend that it's a lot deeper than it actually is.
Right. I know. They laid on the illusions and the allegories pretty
Right.
thick. Youth pastors back in 1999 are like, yes, my boat has come. I know what we're going to be talking about for the next 8 weeks in church.
You know who was the one for real? This guy named Jesus.
Yes, he's the real mate, or the real Neo.
You want to talk about the Trinity?
This world is just the Matrix, man. Come to Zion.
For sure.
This sort of
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
So yeah, no, for sure, and I think that that definitely kind of turns people off the sci-fi, right? Like the pseudo, the pseudo pretentiousness of it. But I really do think that science fiction movies are accessible, and yeah, I think the success of movies like Dune are a really great thing for the genre.
And you were talking about Dune 2, but yeah, if you think about it, another episode just talking about 1999 being like one of the best years for movie releases, because that was the year M. Night Shyamalan's career skyrocketed. That was when The Matrix came out. There's probably a whole list of things that happened in 1999.
The World Is Not Enough came out. I mean, I feel like The Mummy. So The Mummy came out. I feel like that movie is so underrated.
You know who ruined that movie? The Rock.
No, he's in The Scorpion King, not The Mummy.
Oh, well, just the thought of him coming.
Yeah, that's fair. Man,
yeah. Toy Story 2, Tarzan, Notting
Green
Hill,
Mile, Everything I Hate, 10 Things I Hate About You,
American Beauty, Austin
Fight
Powers.
Club, Iron Giant. What a great year. Boondock Saints.
I'm gonna say this, and the Zennials and Millennials will disagree, but like 1999 has to be the best year for movie making.
I mean, The Phantom Menace came out in 1999. I think this is an episode we should revisit this.
Yes, it'll be right next to Dune 2 and Three Body Problem analysis.
Yeah, exactly. This is this is what you guys come for, right? Like this is this is the good stuff. Stuart Little came out in 1999. Stuart Little?
Stuart Little, everyone's favorite movie about the foster care system.
I remember going to the theater for that movie. Same thing with Inspector Gadget. What a year, Mike! You nailed it.
Right? Yeah. 1999 for president.
Movies just haven't been the same since. But for every The Matrix, and oh my gosh, I didn't even look at the comedies. But Wild Wild West came out.
Right.
That's kind of bad. But Austin Power. Yeah, we
We
gotta
don't
talk
talk-
about Austin Powers came out. The Spy Who Shagged Me, Office Space, Big Daddy, Superstar. Analyze This. Come on,
The Green,
The Green Mile.
right? The Cider House
Right.
Rules.
That's man. You nailed it. And
The Rich
right.
Vein.
And the cherry on top is is Rob Schneider's seminal classic, Deuce Bigelow, Male Gigolo.
Yes, that's the movie that rewrote comedy.
Right? Man, what a Mike, what a year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna say that if we did a whole podcast on 1999, we could get at least 3 years of content.
No, I totally agree. And a star coming back from a former podcast, Fievel Goes West.
Ah, yes.
Oh no, it's
Fievel
not
Goes
Fievel Goes
West?
West, but it's Fievel, but it's called An American Tale: The Mystery of the Night Monster came out.
Is that like a straight to DVD?
Maybe I have no
sequel?
idea.
Sus.
And it wouldn't be straight to DVD; it was probably straight to VHS. Man,
Mhm.
yeah.
Well, that was
What a throwback.
a fun
Yeah.
trip.
No, we'll definitely have to come back to it.
Check out this segue. So, in 1999, Nicolas Cage was in that movie Bringing Out the Dead, which was a great movie, which was done by Martin Scorsese.
Oh.
Speaking of Martin Scorsese, he's been in the news because he's been to use a Simpsons quote when they're talking about this news article about old man yells at cloud. I kind of get vibes like he's the old man yelling
100%.
at clouds, like slow down, stop going, you whippersnappers. He's been very verbal, and he keeps bringing it up in articles about how much he dislikes
I know.
superhero movies.
Yeah, you really.
Now, my question is the presence of superhero movies making other filmmakers not want to make movies? Has it totally destroyed like every other genre? Because if that were true, I'd see some credibility in what he's saying.
Yeah, and I mean, it's such a complicated. I think it's a complicated conversation, which is why we're definitely having this conversation. And I think the really what kind of irks me about the situation is that Scorsese, I think, is right in some aspects, but he's wrong about who he's upset about and who's upset at.
Yeah.
And I think he just comes off as really bitter and out of touch. And yeah, so I mean we could break it down, but Mike, how do you feel about it? Because I'm just curious to see how you feel about it.
I mean, he's talking about a genre, and it's a genre issue, and it's old as time. Like, oh, that rap music is junk. Ooh, why do you listen to rap? Well, thankfully, there's millions of other genres you can listen to. Like, totally, like, there's radio stations and Spotify playlists. Just because rap is doing well doesn't mean other music went away. Same with movies. Just because these family companies that have trillions of dollars are really into superhero movies, it didn't mean that the other directors went away and stopped making their movies. In fact, there's whole streaming services and platforms to indie and art movies and neo-noir and, these other films. You just got to look for them. And so you can't get upset that people love something unless like there's some connection with, like, oh, superhero movies are doing so well that people are abandoning their artistic projects for it. And maybe I'd see some credibility if he was saying that.
Right. And I mean, maybe should we read the quote? Do you have the quote on hand? Maybe this will give I feel like maybe that's where we maybe we should have started. But yeah, so I think you nailed kind of the gist of it there, Mike, but
Yeah.
I'm trying to find it, the quote. But yeah, I think you nailed it there, Mike. I think that's the rock hard gist of it. And um and
Yeah.
but to me it kind of just stings of sour grapes. And um
Mm-hmm.
and also just kind of I don't want to say he seems out of touch, but it just screams like he's out of touch. So um here's the full quote. Um Again, it's from an article on Variety. And he says, the danger there is what it's doing to our culture, he said, because there are going to be generations now that think movies are only those. That's what movies are. And
Mm-hmm.
it's the question about. So the question was, when asked about those. At a sprawling new profile on GQ, director Martin Scorsese discussed comic book and franchise culture. And when asked about those kind of blockbusters, Scorsese said that their omnipresence could be negative to audiences who aren't well versed in other types of film. Um, and then he goes on to say, which means that we have to fight then to come back stronger, and it's got to come from a grassroots level. It's got to come from filmmakers themselves. And you'll have, the Safety brother, the Safdie brothers, Chris Nolan, you know what I mean? Hit him from all sides, don't give up. Let's see what you got and go out there and reinvent. Don't complain about it, but it's true. We got to save cinema. And for me, I want to start where I think he's right. I do think that, the the dangers of these franchise movies and these comic book movies, I think, have definitely done a disservice to the movie industry. I mean, it's you can definitely see it's directly responsible for the death of the mid-budget movie, right? Like it's
Yeah.
you can't, when was the last time that a rom-com that wasn't supported by a viral marketing campaign like Barbie, got any kind of
Mhm.
traction like You Got Mail, or 50 First Dates,
Yeah.
right? And comedy movies have been pretty much pushed to the side, and they come out just straight to DVD or to streaming. You think, what was the last time Adam Sandler made a movie? Well, it was probably like, I don't know, Hubie Halloween 2 or something that's on Netflix, right? Like, these things aren't getting these movie theater releases. And yeah, like the franchise culture, I think, has definitely killed it off.
Right. And I think we're stuck in like a rumination where everyone believes that, like, there's like three rules to superhero movies. One, you have to spend at least $300 million on it. And that's a rule that I don't think you have to follow or should
Right? I mean,
follow.
look at Blue Beetle.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
yeah.
The other, like I was going to say, the other rule is that it has to lead somewhere. It has to go to like some bigger universe, and it has to spawn like 8 more movies and have spin-offs. And I don't think that's a rule that you have to follow either.
Yeah, for sure. And I totally agree. But where I think Scorsese is wrong is when he says that these movies don't have any value or that these aren't art, and people that like those things don't like cinema and don't like art, because the language
Yeah.
that he's using there, right? He's like, we got to save cinema, is that he doesn't think that superhero movies are film. He doesn't think that those movies are cinema. And, that's just wrong, right? Like, it's, I dare you to watch, the, End Game and not be emotionally moved, right? There's tons,
Yeah.
these movies, Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy, and
Right.
to say that these movies aren't film or cinema is ridiculous.
Absolutely. I mean, to call anybody's like story work not like a movie or like you're not following the rules of film is kind of narrow-minded. Like, it would be like, I don't know, the person who wrote, gosh, I'm trying to think, Pride and Prejudice, looking at like the Meg series or Harry Potter series and like, that's not a novel, that's not literature. All books need to look like Pride and Prejudice.
Jane Austen, yeah. Yeah, no,
She would do that.
right, exactly. And, I think it's just really, it's so short-sighted from him. And especially when you kind of look at, Martin Scorsese's filmography, you know, y- obviously what comes to mind is like Taxi Driver, Raging Bull, Goodfellas, Cape Fear, Casino, Gangs of New York, The Aviator, The Departed, Wolf of Wall Street, The Irishman. Besides all having Robert De Niro in them, um, it's movies that are made for a very specific audience, right? It's aimed at the 18 to 35, 35 to 50 white male moviegoer, right? Like,
Mhm.
you're not taking your kid sister to go see The Departed, right? Like, there's no way. But to say that because you know Wolf of Wall Street is more mature and deals with more mature themes doesn't make it more art than Captain America Winter Soldier, which also deals with very mature things, but in a way is more accessible to more people, right? And I think accessibility is in and of itself something that is so great about movies, is that it's the great equalizer, right? Like, people are able to access art and movies in particular, and to make it more relatable to the common person and to a wider audience is an art form in and of itself. And that's really what comic books are, right? Like, comic books are just, they're just a rebranding with, lights and sounds of, classic stories told eons past, right? Like, it's the story
Right.
of good overcoming evil. And, what's more artistic than that?
Yeah. It's Greek gods with technology and karate.
Right, exactly. And not, and I agree. Do I think that, most superhero movies that come out, are they, cinematic masterpieces? No. But to just
Hmm.
dismiss them as less than because it's not, Goodfellas is pretty ridiculous.
Right. And, you stumbled upon the fact that, like, children spew out money without prejudice. So, of course, the studios they're going to tap into that and say, some 8 to 13-year-olds are really going to love this and they're not going to judge it like someone who watches Goodfellas. So, I mean, do I like that lazy approach to movie making? Not
Right.
necessarily. I want my kid to watch quality stuff.
Right.
Um, but at the same time, sure, I would do it too if I knew all the 8 to 13-year-olds were spending money on whatever comes out that has a
Right,
shield.
right. And it's so ridiculous to say that like, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, just because it came out in 1937, is is any better or any more of a cinematic masterpiece than something like Treasure Planet or something that came out in 2023. Like just because it's a modern animated movie, doesn't make it any less of quality, right? Like I think it's easy to make fun of the Paddington movies, right? Like the kids movies, but it's also like one of the highest rated movies of all time. And to say like
They got the Queen to be in
right,
that movie.
exactly. And just because it's not 2001 A Space Odyssey, because it doesn't because its main core message is about kindness and loving other people. Like, is that any less art than A Clockwork Orange, where the message is the exact opposite? Like, no, like
Right.
it's ridiculous. And
Yeah.
and sure, if you want to. So I think what I want to say is, in conclusion, I think Martin Scorsese is right in his anger, but I think he's directing
Mhm.
at the wrong people. Like, I don't think it's fair for him to take a shot at moviegoers that enjoy those movies. I don't think it's fair to take a shot at superhero movies and say that they're not art. But I do agree that it's superhero movies as a franchise idea on a
Mhm.
business level. I think that is definitely a problem, and it's very problematic. And I think he's right if he was
Right.
directed at that, but that's not the road he's taking.
Yeah. And I am totally for challenging directors in Disney, Warner
Yeah.
Brothers, whatever's huge,
Yeah.
Miramax, to move
Yeah.
on, find the next
Right.
fun thing and stop
Right.
milking it.
Right. Because
Hmm.
because at the end of the day, something that's mass produced like that isn't art, right? It's um it's not like on a corporate level like that, right? But in the individual stories, like that we got this year with like Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, um, like
Hmm.
those things it is art, and it's not corporate BS, right?
Right.
And it's not garbage, and it's not it's not trash. Like it's good and it's quality, and to paint with such a large brush. And I think that there are valid critiques of the system as a whole, and we've said as much on this show how we feel about it, and I think we agree.
Right.
And I think it is, I think it's it's awful when you know Marvel puts out another
Hmm.
Ant-Man movie. um and
Right.
like when you watch that movie, you're like, yeah, Scorsese's got a point, but at the end of the day,
Hmm.
um you can't paint with such a large brush like that.
Yeah. This is the year where we learn that just because you have $100 million doesn't mean your movie deserves to be
Right.
made.
No,
Yeah.
for sure. And I think studios are going to be a lot more cautious going, into the future. I think between the lessons that they learned from the writer strike and um, kind of what has been making money at the box office, I think a lot of studios are really reconsidering, um, what they're going to do. And I think that there's a lot of movies that are coming up that will really be a barometer about what the movie going public want to see. Scorsese's upcoming film, Killers of Flower Moon. I think that'll be something to watch. I think um the Napoleon movie with Joaquin Phoenix is going to be something to watch, and Dune, and as well as Willy Wonka. And for different reasons, I think the Willy Wonka movie is going to be a real tell if it does do poorly, if it's received poorly, about this whole like franchise idea. But if Dune does well, what does that mean to the studios? I think Dune is an original product, right? And there is an original movie that came out, Patrick Stewart, but for all intents and purposes, it's a pretty new fantastical movie. But yeah, so like I think that
Right.
these are movies to keep your eye on, and they're really gonna be make or break for these studios.
Hmm. And nothing excites me more that Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon is not tied to Star Wars.
Yeah.
Then we're all at the same level when we watch it. We all,
Mhm.
you can't be smug about it and be like, oh, the prequel to Rebel
Right.
Moon was much better.
Right. My only concern is that it's Zack Snyder.
Yeah. Well, once upon a
Mm.
time, he was coming out with
For sure.
bangers. And I don't know how you feel about Batman versus Superman, but
Yeah.
that movie does give you the feels in some places.
And that's what's really crazy, I think, is looking back from like where we're at with DC now, and looking back to the Batman v Superman days, you're like, oh, we had it good then. That's sad.
Yeah. That was back when the plan made
Right.
sense. Mr. Snyder's going to lead us with all these hot bangers. Patty Jenkins is going to copy his music. It's going to come into a beautiful chorus and end with a trilogy that the Justice League was supposed to
Right.
be. It was supposed to be 3 movies where 1, you kill Steppenwolf, 2, you meet up with the Green Lanterns to fight Darkseid, and 3, everything goes to Ash. And it's like a scorched earth, and they have to fight Superman.
Right.
But that was an alternate history timeline ruined by the Flash.
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah.
But and that remains to be seen. And I want to give Zack Snyder the benefit of the doubt. And these are the kind of movies like Rebel Moon. Those are the movies that are right in his wheelhouse.
Right. Like I haven't seen his City of the Dead, Army of the Dead. But apparently they're doing good. He's coming out with a sequel, so
My buddy liked it. I mean, Dave Bautista's in that, right? Yeah, so I mean, it can't be all bad.
Yeah.
Right? And yeah, so in conclusion, Martin Scorsese, go kick rocks.
Yeah. Yeah. Go home, Grandpa.
Right. And it's so tough because again, like he has a point, and I agree with him up to a certain point. But
Right.
like it's like you said at the beginning, right? It seems like an old man just yelling at the clouds, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean the part that boggles me is good artistic movies didn't go
Right,
anywhere.
exactly.
Still there. Like, give this man a subscription to Film Rise.
Right.
So he can remember that good movies still exist if he doesn't like the superhero stuff.
Exactly. I mean, you even look at it this year, right? Like Oppenheimer, like that's right up Scorsese's alley. And it did great at the
Right.
box office because people want to see those movies. They really do. And really, what's taking the hit is these mid-budget movies.
Mm-hmm. Right. Speaking of high budget movies, this is the meat of the show. This is why you came.
Oh man.
Netflix took a piece of it was my college life. Adam, was probably your junior high life.
Yeah,
maybe?
I was sort of like 14, 10, anywhere between
Okay.
10 and 14.
Yeah. So, just out of the blue, if I said you have the director who made From Dusk Till Dawn, Grindhouse, Predators, if you took that guy what kind of movie would he be coming out with in Netflix in
Oh man,
2023?
you bet your britches we're getting like, a clone of Chronicles of Riddick.
Oh, that would be amazing. But the director of Once Upon a Time in Mexico and El Mariachi, and he
It's
is also in charge of all the Spy Kids movies. We're getting number 5, unless you count Shark Boy and Lava Girl as part of the universe.
Is it? I don't know.
I don't know. That was Taylor Lautner's discovery right there.
Right.
But so we're getting number 5 in the series, a Netflix original. Don't cancel your Netflix subscriptions yet. We're getting Spy Kids 5. Armageddon. And my goodness, I have some opinions. First, many people have probably already seen this. I don't want to say there's going to be too many spoilers. Okay, shoot, there's going to be spoilers because my opinions are too strong. But so if you've been dying to watch Spy Kids Armageddon, turn us off, watch it, come back. I just wanted to film something that was semi-popular and new and talk about it.
Yeah, no, and I think that this is a very interesting movie because I think it has all the right ingredients, but what gets to the table is not the sum of its parts.
Yes. Right. And I absolutely agree, and I will be explaining what you just said in many different words. But just to start it off, this is a brand new family. Zachary Levi, he was great in Shazam. How could he fail here? Well, he started a family with 2 kids. I'm trying to think of who plays his wife. Gina Rodriguez, amazing actress. I have to say, they do have some great chemistry in this show as like part-time spies, full-time married couple. And then they have like these adorable kids who are just trying to get tablet time and trying to play weird free-to-play, pay-to-win games on their Nintendo Switch or their cell phones or I don't know. The game High Score comes out and it hacks into the spy network and it steals the Armageddon code. And this Armageddon code can unlock any door. And this evil bad guy who sometimes lives inside a game, sometimes doesn't live inside the game, just wants everyone to play this game to learn how to be better people. And it gets kind of murky after that because not really sure anyone's agenda. Did you think I gave that a good rundown of the movie?
Yeah, I think I would also throw in just the I think part of what made the original so wonderful and charming was kind of like again like it knew it was goofy and silly and it leaned into it with the aesthetic of the movie, and it just kind of felt like they were again like trying too hard. It just kind of felt like Ready Player One, if that makes sense.
Right, like the original Spy Kids, like it had like weird architecture and like flying pigs, right, and like bubble gum that punched you.
Right.
And this movie is kind of like, we're too cool for that. We're gonna do office buildings, and we'll still throw in a skeleton or two, but that's all you're getting.
And it didn't have any it didn't have any of the charm, right, um of the first one. And I think that this movie kind of really, and I don't want it. I don't want it to seem like I'm coming from a place of nostalgia, right? Where I was like, oh, the original Spy Kids was so great. I love them so much, but because it's just so much better. Um,
Hmm.
but like, I don't. It just didn't have. It didn't have that charm in it.
Right, right. And I think part of the problem is they relied too much on Zachary
Yeah.
Levi to be like the dorky dad who he's a spy, but also really incompetent. Like they couldn't have made him more of a goof.
Right.
Like his wife and his kids just constantly saved him and he's like, "Oh no, I can't fight. Oh no, I don't know how programs work."
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think part of it too was like, they just didn't have um like a villain like Alan Cumming was in the first one. Like he was just such a great kind of eccentric but like evil villain. And I don't know, it just didn't feel, I don't know, like you said, it didn't have a like that charm.
The movie made some weird like story bits and philosophy. It got too obsessed over its technology. Like Zachary and Gina Rodriguez are two parents concerned about their kids and do they need tablets? Why are my kids so obsessed with tablets? They don't need it, and that kind of built into the well. Now our kids sneak around us to get to this game called High Score, which unlocks this, steals this deadly code, which unlocks every door. Um, so, like, I like that philosophy. Like, oh yeah, they're speaking to the parents. Because parents are always wondering how much technology is enough or not enough in 2023. But it's said in such a way that was like it's like the movie didn't know if it wanted to be like a strong philosophy on parent topics or if it wanted to be like a goofy and fun movie. So you get like weird scenes like the when Zachary and Gina are like driving in a car and they get this casual message like, "Oh, someone broke into our servers, and could you drive by and stop them?" And they're like, "Yeah, we'll do that." Like such a casual break in, like this guy in metal armor and his thugs are just breaking in and like, "Oh, you just want us to drive by and just take care of it? Sure." And so, they walk in, they're like, "Oh, hi, stop breaking in and stop stealing stuff." Like if this was a spy network, um, if this was like a spy network, I know you're trying to hear me. Can you hear me
A little
better?
bit fun.
Yeah, if this is a spy network, like, shouldn't they be freaking out that, like, terrorists broke into their
Right.
servers as we speak? So it's just, like, weird choices
Mm-hmm.
like that.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, like in part of like what made the first three movies um so so great, I think, especially like the first trilogy, is that um even the adult cast was still, it like you were saying, like they didn't feel like the punchline, if that makes sense, right? Like it wasn't like, Antonio
George Clooney.
Banderas, haha, he's funny because he's a doofus, but he's like, no, he's really cool and charming and suave, and he's Antonio Banderas, and you believe that he's a spy, and you believe that he could do these things, all the things that he said that he's supposed to do. um and it just felt more the world just felt more believable. And yeah, I think that's part of like what was missing in this one. Like you were saying, like there's just some weird choices.
Like in the first Spy Kids, you want to be like your parents because your parents are so
Right.
cool. In this movie, your parents are idiots. You have to correct them all the time. You have to tell them what's really going on because they're just incompetent dupes. And I mean, and that's the kids. The kids have like, they have to fill their parents in on what the true moral of the story is. They have to tell their parents how technology works. This Armageddon code that we find out, this Armageddon code has so much background story. I wish the kids had, anyone in the family had as much background in character building as the Armageddon code. We learned that the kid accidentally did a math equation and made this Armageddon code.
Mm.
You know, so these kids are like, you know, parents, stop messing up. Let us fix the problem. And, you know, I think that's like a switch, maybe a switch in like how kids view their parents, like early 2000s. We look up to mom and dad. 2023, mom and dad are not relevant. They need to be corrected.
Yeah, and I don't. Yeah, it just feels like it feels like such a step back. I mean, that feels like that kind of trope feels just so like 2008, 2010 to me. You know.
Jennifer Garner, and it was all about like each parent and each kid in the family had like relevance and had their own strengths and weaknesses, and everyone had their own voice. And I didn't feel like that in Spy Kids. I didn't feel like anyone had in the family had chemistry.
Yeah, for sure. And have you seen the movie Mitchell versus Machines?
No, but I hear good things.
Yeah,
about
and
it.
I think it's more it's along the lines of what you were just saying, Mike, but like each of the characters in the movie, like the family, they all have their own identity, and they all make up this family unit. They all have positives, they all have negatives, but they all just work together well, and nobody and nobody is specifically the butt of the joke, right? Um, and instead it's more like it feels like a real family, right? Like each family has quirks, everyone is a little different, but they all bring something to the table in a positive, celebrated way. And um yeah, exactly what you're saying. Like it just doesn't feel that way in this movie.
Hilarious thing. So the spy network, the OSS, they wake up one day to find that this video game, this high score, has hacked into every program, right? You have to play the game if you want to unlock your smart door. You have to play the game if you want to use the ATM. And so this high score game is everywhere. Yet when the OSS talk to the kids are like, it's the creator of the high score game who's behind this. Like the OSS are so surprised. Him? Like, it's amazing. Like you didn't figure that out. The guy's game is what's hacked into everything. You really needed a kid to tell you that?
Right. Like what are we doing here?
Yeah, and the fact that every adult in the world is horrible at this game, like as a gamer myself, I don't understand the value of this high score game. One, it can be played on Nintendo Switch with controls, and somehow have PS5 graphics, which is the hardest thing to believe in this fantasy movie. Second, it can be played on keyboard where you just hit a few keystrokes and your character does super kicks. And then in another part, you can go virtual reality and use your brain to hop over, go platforming and destroy bosses.
Right.
It's actually a very fast game where you just have to jump over a few blocks and fight a boss and fight the last guy. And No one's beaten this game before.
Right. Nobody, and only kids.
Only kids with morals in their hearts can beat it, and no one's done that.
Right. I mean, that's what they're missing, right? A childlike sense of innocence.
Yes.
Um.
Yes. Like in our day and age, like people beat like Starfield, right? Like it came out and people spent all night playing it and beat it.
Heck, people beat
And-
like the first 2 hours of Starfield before it came out because somebody hacked it.
Right. And so this new game comes out and like everyone's like an idiot. Like, how do I beat this boss? When in reality someone would have speed run the game,
Right.
beat it 30 seconds, hacked all the good
Right.
equipment.
Exactly. And even the the part of like what was really great about Spy Kids movies, and then watching them as a kid and then coming back as an adult, is that they definitely put stuff in for the adults. But even like this movie you're watching, they're like, what? Why as an adult am I watching this?
Right. It's like it skipped us. It's kind of like a middle finger to those who grew up with Spy Kids.
Right. And my favorite still dialogue, dialogues, the pieces of dialogue in any movie, on my Mount Rushmore, comes from Steve Buscemi's character, where he's like, does God stay in heaven because he's afraid of what he's created? Like, that came from like a Spy Kids movie. That's such a hard line. And, there's just none of that charm in this.
I mean, the band he kind of reminded me of like a discount Alan Tudyk. Which I kind of feel like that's where they were trying to channel. But like his whole thing is like people need to play my game because game theory changes people, makes them better people. And like a part of me thinks that like Robert Rodriguez let his like 8-year-old daughter write the script because there's so many things that like only a child would understand. Like, okay, you have this Armageddon code, right? But you can also split it in half and put it in 2 different necklaces. You know how you can just, highlight a code and just copy paste half of it and put it together and just, or you can like have the second half of the code like still unfinished, so the code only works a little bit because everyone knows unfinished software just works a little bit.
Right.
And it's just like there's so much
kid logic.
Like the fantasy. The fantasy in this is not like the cool worlds and the goofy like setups and the weird bad guys. The fantasy is like ignorance towards how technology works. Like it's such a fantasy that we don't understand how technology works. Yeah.
No, 100%. Yeah. So overall, on a rating, what are you giving this?
This is not a movie that like I'm sad because it has Zachary Levi, and I just think that man oozes fun and charm. And it's taken us so long to realize that he's actually a great actor and deserves to be in a lot of movies. And this movie doesn't utilize him. Though I did appreciate the chemistry between, Gina Rodriguez and Zachary Levi. Like, it's not enough to justify just the mechanics of this movie and how like it's not fun.
Right.
Like I know kids will get a kick out of like kids beating up skeletons and robots and using technology that looks fun. They'll like that. but like anything else is just not worth the ride.
Right. And
I give it a solid 4.
yeah, and I think that that's definitely what you're saying is part of the problem, right? Like it's it's a kids movie, right? Like it's supposed to have the wacky, goofy hijinks. It's supposed to have the outlandish action. Like that's all expected, right? Everybody wants that, but it has to be built on a bed of substance, And yeah, this movie just didn't have it.
A whole story where a code that opens up doors. Is that what's trending? Is that what's cool? Like, didn't the other ones have flying pigs and like large thumbs that knew karate? And like this one is like betting on the fact that you'll get excited about a watch that can open up doors.
Right.
Yeah.
And it definitely sounds like this story seems like somebody took a focus group of 6 to 10-year-olds about what they like, and then they like compiled it as adults and then pitched it to Robert Rodriguez. You know what I mean? Like it sounds like an adult interpretation of a kid focus group of a plot.
Like they knew kids wanted to tamper with their mom's iWatch. Said, "Ooh, let's build a movie around iWatch."
What do the kids love? Oh, they love they love doors.
Doors. And they love it when adults don't know how to use them.
Oh, adults. They have no idea how to use technology.
They also love like Fortnite. So we're just gonna build some kind of Fortnite thing, and and sometimes it's VR, sometimes it's third person, sometimes it's first person, sometimes it's strategy.
Right.
It's whatever our virtual effects can afford.
And even just that concept of like adults not knowing about technology is such like an outdated like thing. Like it made sense maybe in the the late 90s, early 2000s, right, when technology was really, there was such a steep learning curve for people over the age of like 35, and it definitely was like a younger person kid sort of thing. But like now to say that like Zachary Levi, who can't be older than like 35, 40, to say that he has no idea how like technology works at all, like the baseline of understanding technology is so high now. To say that he's just like a total buffoon about it is like suspect.
Just he doesn't know where the manual switch is to open a secret door in his house. Something that he probably built,
Right.
or at least was part of like the blueprint.
Right.
So like when you don't know where the knobs are in your own house,
Right.
like that's a special kind of ignorance.
Right. Yeah.
So, one thing I will give kudos to the movie is when Gina Rodriguez throws like a flash bomb and the lights are flickering and they're beating up the bad guys. It did remind me of the Batman in his that flashing light scene where he's fighting bad guys, and every time the lights flicker on, you see him doing a different move. Like, I have to say, wow, that was a pretty artistic shot for this movie.
I love that. Yeah, no, for sure. And it's such a shame because it's like, why couldn't you just do this for the whole thing, right? Like you were capable of doing this, so why didn't you?
I know we have to get to your score.
Oh, yeah.
But huge prison and social justice message at the end, where the bad guy's like, he should go to jail. And then the little daughter's like, no, jail won't change him. Just let him play his game until he beats it. which is kind of a weird punishment. But basically, the guy who shut down technology, shut down people from getting their SNAP benefits, shut down food markets, shut down the world's like economy with his game. You know, instead of going to jail, he has to live inside his game until he beats it. Which he would have beaten it because he made the game.
Right.
Probably knows the code to like give himself infinite everything.
Right.
So
Right. And yeah. Again, why does this child have opinions on prison reform?
why is the spy network saying, hey, that's not a bad idea? You know, we're going to throw away all our protocol.
This little kid has a point.
Yeah, because you said it with puppy dog eyes.
No, Mike, I mean, I totally agree. I mean, you said 4, right, out of 10? Yeah, and
Yeah.
you know, I'm right there with you. You know, I think I'm gonna give a little bit more maybe props to a nod to Zachary Levi, and I do think aesthetically as kind of like weirdly Ready Player One as opposed to, you know, kind of the charm of the original 3. But you know, I'm gonna give it a 5. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, I think we're on the same page here, Mike. I think, yeah, it's nothing to write home about.
Wanted to make it relevant, and there's a lot of like moral of the day things and a lot of foreshadow. Like they really beat you over the head with the foreshadow. Like when the daughter says to the son, you know, you shouldn't cheat at games. Cheating helps with everything. And then you think, okay, later he's gonna do something honest, which is gonna save the day. Yep, there it is.
Check.
Okay. You know,
Yeah.
like I feel like Robert Rodriguez is like, I need to get the morals first, and then whatever's left in the budget's gonna go to the fantasy part and the sci-fi part.
Right. Right. Yeah, and again, like, yeah, the fundamental, I think, just flaw with this movie is, again, like, it just doesn't have a base, right? It doesn't have a solid base. It doesn't know what it wants to be, right? Like, it's not, yeah, it's just kind of listless.
It's almost as if Martin Scorsese got into Robert Rodriguez's head, and he's like, you know what? We can't be silly in franchise. We got to make this relevant and cinematic.
Right. Ah, boy. Yeah. And it's such a disappointment, right? Because it does feel like, kind of like what we said at the top. It has all the ingredients to be an awesome dinner, but it just kind of falls flat, and it's less than the sum of its parts.
And that's Zachary Levi. He's a snack. You can quote me on that.
Quote it.
So,
Mhm.
This was probably our second, maybe our third movie review, and I was happy to do something relevant, slightly new, and just see what the kids are up to these days, and then horribly analyze it. And I hope that was fun for you too.
I had fun.
Yeah. I mean, I got to watch this, and you know, with my wife saying, "Why are you watching this?" And it's for research.
It's for a thing.
Yes. People rely on me. Yeah. So, anyways, season 2, starting strong with Spy Kids and Martin Scorsese. Adam, I think this is going to be the start of a beautiful season.
No, I definitely agree. And I think it's gonna be a great a year looking back on it, and at the end of our next season and looking back, I think it's really gonna be an exciting year. I think there's a lot of really cool stuff on the horizon.
October, stamp date, October 5th. There's going to be some horror movies and some scary movies that are coming out. Is there anything that tickles your fancy?
Man, what a great question. This, horror scary movies aren't necessarily in my wheelhouse. I'm more of a like a slow burn psychological thriller. Like I like more The Shining more than It, if that makes sense. Um but that new Hercule Poirot movie, A Haunting in Venice, looks pretty decent. I'll probably give that a go at some point, but um, yeah, I mean, I'm not too into the Saws or the I think that there's a new what is it? What's that movie? Um, the Possession movie,
Oh yeah,
Exorcist, the new
Exorcist.
Exorcist movie. I know that's coming out. Those aren't really in my wheelhouse per se, um, but yeah, I don't know. What do you think, Mike? I guess this isn't really my area of expertise.
Wife and I are transitioning from, ghosts and witches and demons to our first love, which is people with big knives with psycho disorders. That seems to be our wheelhouse. So not necessarily Saw, which is like hyper violent, but more like weird stalkers and people with just like very bad brains.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, this is the season for it, right? It feels like there's a lot of good stuff, and I think there's some good stuff that came out this year. I think Megan was a surprise hit. Scream 6, I think, got some pretty positive reviews. So I think it was a good year for it.
Let's end on that. Thank you everyone who stuck with us on season 1. Season 2, just based on everything we mentioned, is going to be amazing. So, enjoy the ride with us and tell us how we're doing.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, and, stay safe, drink lots of water, and I'm stalling for time, and goodbye.